The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council fell silent as the emergency beacon lit up the central display. The massive screen showed a face filled with terror, one of the bright ones, their silvery skin reflecting the emergency lights behind them. Smoke filled the background of the transmission. "This is Head Healer Marcus of the Bright Ones." The alien's voice trembled. "We request immediate assistance. The swarm has entered our system. 2 outer colonies are already lost." The transmission crackled with static. "Our weapons have no effect. Please, we need help." Council member Tom stood up from his seat, his old bones creaking. As the human representative, he knew his people were the newest addition to the council. Most aliens still looked down on humans as primitive beings who had barely learned to leave their planet. The council chamber erupted in worried whispers. The swarm was infamous throughout the galaxy. They were a hive mind of space-faring insects that consumed everything in their path. Their massive ships, more like living creatures than vessels, had destroyed dozens of civilizations. "The Bright Ones are our most advanced medical researchers," a blue-skinned council member said. "We cannot lose their knowledge." "But who will help them?" another asked. "The swarm adapts to energy weapons within hours. They've grown immune to most of our advanced technology." Tom watched as the so-called advanced races of the galaxy made excuses. Their mighty fleets, equipped with energy weapons and quantum shields, stayed safely in their harbors. The Bright Ones had helped every race in the galaxy with their medical knowledge. But now, when they needed help, everyone looked away. He pressed the button on his console. "Earth will respond." The chamber fell silent again, but this time with disbelief. Some council members even laughed. "With what?" a tall, crystal-like being asked. "Your primitive nuclear ships. Your basic railguns. The swarm would destroy them in minutes." Tom smiled. These aliens never understood humanity's greatest strength. They always underestimated humans. "We have a fleet ready to launch, the Pacific Preservation Force." More laughter filled the chamber. Everyone knew about Earth's oldest fleet. 5 ships scheduled to be turned into museums, running on technology the rest of the galaxy had abandoned centuries ago. The head healer's image flickered on the screen again. We would welcome any help, even from Earth. The swarm will reach our homeworld in 15 days. Our people are dying." Tom stood straighter. "The Pacific Preservation Force can reach your system in 12 days. Commander Jack Thompson leads the fleet. He's old, like his ships, but he's never lost a battle." The council members whispered among themselves. They had no choice. It was either Earth's help or nothing. The council leader, a tall being made of pure energy, floated forward. "Very well," the leader said. "Earth may send its fleet, but understand this: if you fail, the Bright Ones will be lost forever." Tom nodded and pressed his communicator. "Command Center, this is Council Member Tom. Get me Commander Thompson." A gruff voice answered, crackling through the old-style radio waves Earth still used. "Thompson here, sir." "Commander, how would you like to save an advanced civilization and show the galaxy what humanity's primitive technology can do?" There was a pause, then a chuckle. "Old Thunder's engines are hot and ready, sir. My crew's been bored sitting in orbit. Just point us in the right direction." As Tom gave the coordinates, he looked at the doubtful faces around him. Soon they would learn what humans already knew. Sometimes the old ways were the best ways. Sometimes being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. The Pacific Preservation Force would launch within the hour. 5 old ships carrying humanity's pride and the hopes of an entire alien civilization. The galaxy was about to learn why you should never dismiss a human offering help, even if they brought their oldest, weakest fleet to the fight. Commander Jack Thompson stood in the control room of Old Thunder, his flagship. The ship's metal walls were thick and sturdy, built in a time when humans believed proper armor was the best defense in space. The control panels used physical buttons and switches instead of the holographic displays other species preferred. "Status report," he called out to his crew. The bridge crew was a mix of old veterans and young recruits, people that other fleets didn't want. Too old, too unconventional, or too stubborn to work with modern technology. "All systems ready, Commander," Officer Pete said from his station. His gray hair matched the color of the metal walls. "The other ships report ready too." Thompson looked at the fleet status display. 5 ships, all of them built over 30 years ago. The Old Thunder, the largest, led the group. Behind it were the Steel Rain, Desert Storm, Ocean Fury, and Mountain Breaker. Each ship carried traditional nuclear engines, railguns, and armor thick enough to survive hits that would destroy newer ships. A hologram appeared in the middle of the bridge, the latest technology they had installed. It showed Admiral Wilson from Earth Command. "Jack," the Admiral's voice was serious. "The United Earth government just finished their emergency meeting. They're nervous about sending our oldest ships to help aliens." Thompson smiled. "Tell them not to worry. These ships might be old, but they're strong, like the crews that run them." "The Galactic Council is sending observers," the Admiral continued. "They'll arrive in an hour. Try not to frighten them with our primitive ways." Just then, Officer Mary spoke up from her communication station. She was young, fresh from the academy, but she preferred radio waves to quantum communications. "Sir, the alien observers are requesting permission to dock." "Granted," Thompson said. He straightened his old uniform. "Let's show them how Earth's finest operate." 3 aliens entered the bridge. They looked shocked at the sight of physical controls and screens. The tallest one, who introduced himself as Observer First, spoke through a translator. "This ship, it uses nuclear power?" he asked, his voice full of disbelief. "Yes," Thompson answered proudly. "Reliable, powerful, and hard to disable. We also have backup chemical rockets, just in case." The aliens exchanged worried looks. Observer Second pointed at the weapons display. "These are projectile weapons, not energy beams." "Railguns," Officer Pete explained. "They fire metal shells at high speed. Simple, but they work every time. No fancy power systems to fail." The third alien observer was studying the ship's blueprints on a screen. "Your hull, it's solid metal. No energy shielding. 3 feet of reinforced steel and ceramic," Thompson said. "Energy shields can fail. Good armor doesn't." The aliens huddled together, speaking in their own language. Thompson could tell they were worried. They probably thought Earth was sending these ships on a suicide mission. "All ships, report ready for jump," Thompson ordered through the intercom. One by one, the other captains responded. Captain Lisa from the Steel Rain, Captain Robert from the Desert Storm, Captain Mike from the Ocean Fury, and Captain James from the Mountain Breaker. All veterans, all commanding ships they had served on for decades. "Observer First," Thompson turned to the aliens. "Would you like to send a message to the Council before we leave?" The alien nodded slowly. "I will tell them. I will tell them that humans are either very brave or very foolish." Thompson laughed. "Sometimes those are the same thing." He pressed the ship-wide communication button. "All hands, prepare for departure. We have 12 days to reach the Bright One system. That's 12 days to show these observers why Earth's oldest fleet is still its proudest." The 5 ships fired their nuclear engines, the powerful thrust pushing them away from Earth. They might look old and weak to the rest of the galaxy, but Thompson knew better. Sometimes the oldest sword was the sharpest, and the oldest warriors were the wisest. The Pacific Preservation Force was going to war, carrying humanity's determination and decades of experience with them. The galaxy was about to learn that primitive didn't mean powerless. 6 days into their journey, the Pacific Preservation Force moved steadily through space. The 5 ships traveled in a tight formation, their nuclear engines leaving a bright trail behind them. Inside the Old Thunder, the crew worked in their usual efficient way, though their alien observers watched every move with growing interest. Another radio check. Officer Mary called out from her station. She insisted on hourly communications with all ships, using old-fashioned radio waves instead of quantum channels. All ships report normal operations. Observer First floated near her station, his silvery eyes wide. Why do you use such slow communication methods? Light-speed radio waves take whole seconds to reach your other ships. Mary smiled as she adjusted her headset. Because radio waves can't be blocked or hacked easily. Simple is sometimes better than fast. At the weapons station, Officer Pete was running another check on the railguns. His hands moved over the controls with practiced ease, gained from 20 years of service. All weapons charged and ready, Commander. Just in case. Thompson nodded from his command chair. He watched as Observer Second studied the weapon readouts with growing curiosity. The alien had stopped making dismissive comments about their primitive weapons after watching yesterday's target practice, where they had destroyed a small asteroid with a single railgun shot. Your crews, Observer Third spoke up. They work without neural links or AI assistance. How do they coordinate so well? Practice, Thompson answered. Years of working together, trusting each other. No computer can replace that. The ship's mess hall was busy as the next shift came in for their meal. Unlike modern ships with their food synthesizers, the old Thunder had a real kitchen. Cook Bill, a former Navy chef, believed in feeding his crew proper food. Real food keeps morale high. Bill explained to the fascinated observers as he stirred a pot of beef stew. And happy crews fight better than hungry ones. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Anna worked with her team, checking the nuclear reactors. She was young for her position, but she understood old technology better than anyone. The observers watched as she used a wrench to adjust a valve manually. In modern ships, this would be done by automated systems, Observer First commented. Anna wiped grease from her hands. And when those automated systems fail, what then? I can fix anything on this ship with basic tools. Try doing that with a quantum drive. The journey continued, and day by day, the observers' attitudes changed. They watched as the crew ran combat drills, practiced emergency procedures, and worked together like a well-oiled machine. They saw how each person knew their job perfectly, how they could repair and maintain their equipment without relying on advanced technology. On the 10th day, Thompson called a meeting in the ship's briefing room. The walls were covered with paper maps and tactical displays. Another primitive choice that the observers now understood was intentional. 2 days until we reach the Bright One system, Thompson said to his gathered officers. Latest reports show the swarm has taken a third planet. They're moving faster than expected. Steel Rain reports all weapons ready, Officer Pete said. The other ships too. We've been running extra drills on rapid-fire sequences. Good, Thompson nodded. The swarm won't expect physical weapons. They've never faced them before. He turned to the observers. Any word from your council? Observer First stood straighter. They'd wish you luck. And they are watching with great interest. No one has ever challenged the swarm with such unconventional methods. Thompson smiled. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Humanity learned war with simple weapons and basic tactics. We learned to fight with our hearts and minds, not just our technology. He looked at his crew. Get some rest. In 2 days, we show the galaxy why Earth keeps its old fleet around. The Pacific Preservation Force continued its journey through space, each hour bringing them closer to the battle. They might be considered weak and primitive, but they carried with them humanity's greatest strengths: determination, experience, and the wisdom to know that sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. The old Thunder dropped out of its travel path, followed by the rest of the Pacific Preservation Force. The sight that greeted them made even the veteran crew members pause. The Bright One's solar system was a battlefield. The outer planets were already dark, stripped of all life by the swarm. Massive organic ships, each one looking like a cross between an insect and a spaceship, moved through space like a cloud of locusts. They were heading toward the third planet, the Bright One's homeworld. Status report, Thompson ordered, his voice steady despite the scene before them. Multiple swarm ships detected. Officer Pete reported from his station. Largest concentration I've ever seen. They're eating the fourth planet, sir, breaking it apart. The alien observers watched in horror as the massive swarm vessels tore chunks from the planet's surface. Their organic ships processed everything they consumed, growing larger and stronger. Incoming transmission. Officer Mary called out. It's from the Bright One's capital city. The main screen showed the face of head healer Marcus. Behind him, the beautiful crystal cities of the Bright Ones glowed with defensive energy shields. Earth fleet, thank the stars you've arrived. But where are your energy weapons? Your quantum shields? We brought something better, Thompson replied. He turned to Officer Pete. Show them what a railgun can do. Target that small swarm ship near the fourth planet's moon. Pete grinned as he aimed the ship's main railgun. The weapon charged with a deep hum that vibrated through the old Thunder's hull. Target locked. Sir. Fire. The railgun launched its projectile. A solid metal slug accelerated to incredible speed. The shot crossed the space between them in seconds. When it hit the swarm ship, something unexpected happened. The alien vessel exploded instantly. No shields activated. No energy defenses. The simple kinetic impact tore through its organic hull like paper. By the stars, Observer first whispered. They're adaptive shields. They didn't even activate. Thompson nodded. Because they're designed to stop energy weapons. The swarm evolved to defend against the most advanced technology in the galaxy. But sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Head healer Marcus's eyes widened with understanding. Your weapons, they're physical projectiles. Pure kinetic energy. Simple pieces of metal, moving very fast, Thompson explained. No energy signature to adapt to. No complex systems to counter. He turned to his crew. All ships, battle stations. Pete, analyze their movements. I want to know everything about how these bugs fight. The next hour was spent watching and learning. The swarm ships moved in patterns, like insects protecting their queen. Their organic hulls could regenerate damage from energy weapons, but physical impacts left them vulnerable. Look at that. Officer Mary pointed to her screen. They use some kind of biological communication, like a hive mind, but it's slow between the larger groups. Thompson studied the tactical display. The swarm was strong, but they had weaknesses. They relied too much on their adaptive shields. They moved in predictable patterns. And most importantly, they had never faced an enemy who fought like humans. Send to all ships, Thompson ordered. I want all railguns charged. Load the nuclear torpedoes. We're going to show these bugs why humanity still builds ships with thick armor and simple weapons. The Pacific Preservation Force moved into attack formation. 5 old ships against a swarm of alien vessels. But Thompson smiled as he gave the orders. The swarm had never faced nuclear weapons or railguns. They had never fought an enemy who used radio waves instead of quantum signals. They had never dealt with humans who thought differently than the rest of the galaxy. All ships report ready, sir, Mary announced. Thompson nodded. Then it's time to teach the swarm that sometimes the oldest hunter is the most dangerous. All ships, prepare for combat maneuvers. Let's show the galaxy what Earth's primitive fleet can do. Commander Thompson stood before the holographic display in Old Thunder's tactical room. Around him gathered his ship captains, their faces showing on screens since they couldn't leave their vessels. The alien observers and head healer Marcus watched as Thompson laid out his plan. The swarm thinks like insects, Thompson began, pointing to the movement patterns they had recorded. They protect their biggest ships, what we're calling the queens, with smaller vessels. But they have 3 major weaknesses. He tapped the display, highlighting a large swarm vessel. First, they've never faced physical weapons. Their shields don't stop our railguns. Second, they communicate like a real insect hive. The further apart they are, the slower they react. And third, they're overconfident. They think we're weak. Captain Lisa of the Steel Rain spoke up from her screen. "What's the plan, Commander?" Thompson smiled. "We're going to use Earth's oldest battle tactics. Divide and conquer." He moved the holographic ships around. "We split their forces, isolate the queens, and hit them with everything we've got." "Sir," Captain Robert from Desert Storm called out, "they outnumber us 100-1. "Numbers don't win battles," Thompson replied. "The Bright One's energy weapons didn't work because the swarm adapted. But they can't adapt to a piece of metal moving at high speed. We have 40 railguns between our 5 ships, and each gun can fire 3 times per minute." He turned to head healer Marcus. "We'll need your help. Your cities have powerful energy shields. We'll use them as bait." The alien leader looked confused. "Bait? But their weapons tear through our shields in minutes." "Exactly," Thompson nodded. "They'll be focused on your shields, expecting energy weapons to fire back. Instead, they'll meet our railguns from directions they don't expect." Officer Pete brought up detailed scans of the swarm ships. "Their organic hulls are tough, but they have weak points. The joint areas, where segments connect. One good hit there will tear them apart." Thompson outlined the positions for each ship. Old Thunder would lead the main attack. Steel Rain and Desert Storm would hide behind the larger moons, waiting to strike. Ocean Fury and Mountain Breaker would protect the Bright One cities. "We use simple tactics," Thompson explained. "Aim for their weak points. Don't stay in one place. Use the planets and moons for cover. And most importantly, we fight as a team." Observer First stepped forward. "Commander, this plan, it seems very risky. Your ships will be exposed to direct attacks." "That's why we have 3 feet of armor." Thompson patted the ship's wall. "Our hulls can take hits that would destroy modern ships. Sometimes being old-fashioned has its advantages." He turned to his communication officer. "Mary, set up the radio network. Short bursts only, using the old Earth military codes. The swarm won't understand them, and they can't block simple radio waves." The captains nodded in agreement. They had all trained for years using these tactics. Their crews knew exactly what to do. "One last thing," Thompson said. "Load the nuclear torpedoes. If we can't beat them with railguns alone, we'll give them a taste of Earth's oldest and most powerful weapons." Head healer Marcus looked worried. "Nuclear weapons? In space?" "Trust me," Thompson assured him. "Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. The swarm has never faced anything like this before." The meeting ended, and each captain returned to prepare their crew. The observers watched as the human ships moved into position, using the system's natural features for cover. "This is either brilliant or suicide," Observer First commented. Thompson checked his tactical display one last time. "Maybe both, but that's how humans won their first space battles, and that's how we'll win this one. All ships, battle stations. The swarm is about to learn why Earth keeps its old fleet around." The Pacific Preservation Force spread out across the star system, each ship knowing its role. They might be old, they might be considered weak, but they carried with them centuries of human military wisdom. Sometimes the simplest plans were the most effective, and sometimes the oldest warriors knew best how to win a fight. The battle began with a simple radio message from Commander Thompson. "All ships, execute Plan Thunder." The Bright One cities lit up their energy shields, bright and attractive like honey to the swarm. The massive alien ships turned toward the planet, their organic hulls gleaming in the starlight. Just as Thompson predicted, they moved to attack the shields first. "They took the bait," Officer Mary reported. "Swarm ships moving into position." Thompson watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet split into 3 groups. They didn't notice the human ships hiding behind moons and planets, didn't suspect the trap they were walking into. "Now," Thompson ordered. Old Thunder emerged from behind the system's largest gas giant, its engines roaring at full power. At the same time, Steel Rain and Desert Storm appeared from behind different moons, their railguns already aimed. "All guns, fire at will." Thompson commanded. The space between the ships lit up with railgun fire. Solid metal slugs, moving at incredible speeds, tore through the swarm's organic hulls. The alien ships had no defense against such simple weapons. Their adaptive shields, designed to stop energy weapons, were useless against pure kinetic force. Direct hits, Officer Pete shouted. 3 enemy ships destroyed. The swarm reacted quickly, but their confusion was clear. They had never faced an enemy that fought like this. Their ships tried to dodge, but the humans had positioned themselves perfectly. Every escape route led them into another ship's firing line. Steel Rain reports successful hits, Mary called out. Desert Storm has destroyed their targets too. But the swarm was far from beaten. They launched waves of smaller ships, like angry wasps defending their hive. These ships were faster, harder to hit. Evasive maneuvers, Thompson ordered as enemy fire struck Old Thunder's hull. The thick armor held, though the whole ship shook. Hull integrity at 85%. Engineer Anna reported from the engine room. The old girl's tough, sir. Thompson watched as Ocean Fury and Mountain Breaker protected the Bright One cities, their railguns creating a wall of fire that no swarm ship could pass. The alien observers stood amazed as humanity's primitive weapons proved more effective than any energy weapon. Sir, Pete called out, large swarm ship approaching. It's a queen. The massive queen ship was twice the size of Old Thunder, its organic hull covered in strange growths and weapons. It fired energy beams that could melt modern ships instantly. All ships concentrate fire on the queen's weak points, Thompson ordered. Execute pattern beta. The 5 human ships moved in perfect coordination, centuries of naval tactics adapted for space warfare. They circled the queen like wolves around larger prey, their railguns targeting the joints between its armored segments. Queen's hull is cracking, Pete reported, but our railgun ammunition is running low. Thompson nodded. It was time for humanity's last surprise. Load nuclear torpedoes. All ships, clear the blast radius. The observers gasped. Nuclear weapons, in space combat. Sometimes the oldest weapons are the most effective, Thompson said. Fire. 5 nuclear torpedoes launched from different directions, giving the Queen no chance to dodge them all. When they exploded, the flash was brighter than the system's sun. The Queen ship, caught in the middle, didn't stand a chance. Its organic hull vaporized instantly. The loss of their queen threw the swarm into chaos. Their coordinated movements became random, panicked. Without central control, they were just animals acting on instinct. Enemy fleet is retreating, Mary announced. They're running. The bridge crew cheered, but Thompson kept his eyes on the tactical display. The battle wasn't over yet. The Pacific Preservation Force had won their first engagement, but the swarm still had more queens, more ships. Reload all weapons, he ordered. This was just round 1. But now they know that humanity's oldest fleet isn't as weak as they thought. The observers watched in amazement as the human ships regrouped, their thick armor scared but intact, their crews tired but proud. They had just witnessed something unprecedented. The swarm's first defeat at the hands of the galaxy's most primitive ships. 3 days after the first battle, the Old Thunder's bridge was quiet as Commander Thompson watched the last swarm ship disappear into deep space. The Pacific Preservation Force had fought 6 major battles, destroyed 3 queen ships, and forced the entire swarm fleet to retreat. Final status report. Thompson called out to his tired but proud crew. Hull integrity at 60%. Engineer Anna reported from the engine room. We're damaged but still strong. The old armor held better than anyone expected. Officer Pete checked his weapons display. Railguns are operational. We used 80% of our ammunition, but it was worth it. All ships reporting in, Officer Mary announced. Steel Rain has heavy damage but can still fight. Desert Storm lost 1 engine, but their weapons work. Ocean Fury and Mountain Breaker are battered but operational. No casualties, sir, just like you promised. The alien observers stood in amazement. Their earlier doubts about Earth's primitive fleet had vanished completely. Observer first stepped forward and bowed deeply to Thompson. "Commander," he said, "the Galactic Council was wrong about humanity. Your old fleet just did what our most advanced ships couldn't do. You defeated the swarm." The main screen lit up with head healer Marcus's face. Behind him, the Bright One's crystal cities still stood proud and untouched. "Earth fleet, you have saved our civilization. Our people will never forget this debt. But please, we must know, how did you do it?" Thompson smiled. "We won because everyone underestimated us. The swarm evolved to fight the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. They never expected simple metal shells fired from railguns. They never thought to defend against nuclear weapons in space. Sometimes the old ways are the best ways." "The Council is calling an emergency meeting," Observer Second announced. "They want to study your ships, your weapons, your tactics." "They're welcome to look," Thompson said, "but they might be disappointed. There's no great secret here, just solid engineering, proven tactics, and crews who know their jobs." The bridge crew watched as hundreds of Bright One ships emerged from their cities, their energy weapons powered down. They formed an honor guard around the 5 human vessels, their lights creating beautiful patterns in space. "Message from Earth Command," Mary said, smiling. "The decommissioning orders for our fleet have been canceled. They want us to train other crews in our tactics." Thompson looked at his ship's battle-scarred hull through an external camera. The old metal was dented and scorched, but it had protected his crew when modern shields would have failed. The simple nuclear engines had powered them through battle after battle. The basic railguns had proven more effective than any energy weapon. "Sir," Pete called out, "the Bright Ones are asking permission to repair our ships. They say they want to keep our primitive design but strengthen the materials with their advanced science." "Accept their offer," Thompson nodded, "but tell them not to change too much. These old ships have proven their worth just as they are." The observers gathered around Thompson. Observer First spoke for all of them. "Commander, we came aboard thinking we would watch a primitive fleet meet its end. Instead, we witnessed a revolution in space warfare. The galaxy will never be the same." Thompson looked at his crew, the old veterans and young recruits who had proven themselves in battle. They had shown the galaxy that humanity's approach to space warfare, though considered primitive and outdated, was still effective. "Send to all ships," he ordered. "The Pacific Preservation Force has completed its mission. We've saved the Bright Ones, defeated the swarm, and shown the galaxy that sometimes the oldest sword is the sharpest." As the 5 battered ships turned toward home, escorted by the grateful Bright Ones, Thompson thought about how the galaxy had changed. Humanity's oldest and weakest fleet had just become its most famous. They had proven that true strength didn't come from advanced technology, but from experience, determination, and the wisdom to know that sometimes the simplest solution was the best solution.